It is November 18th, another Wednesday, another episode number 10 of The Take coming your way. A lot of NBA offseason buzz. Chris Paul is headed to the Suns. Drew Holiday headed to the Bucks. Is James Harden going to head off to Brooklyn to join Durant and Kyrie Irving to make a Brooklyn super team? We'll all find out that very shortly. NBA draft is tonight. Crazy NFL week. DeAndre Hopkins, 3-on-1. He clutched that game-winning touchdown. It's all next on The Take. So a lot of NBA offseason talk and moves already being made. First one was Chris Paul going from the OKC Thunder to the Phoenix Suns. And we saw last year when Chris Paul got traded from Houston to OKC, we thought it was more of like a salary dump. OKC gave up some young core, and the Thunder weren't going to be that great. But they made the playoffs. They forced the Rockets to 7 games, and what we thought the Thunder had a really good chance of winning that series. And all right, Chris Paul's 35, and you might think that they gave up a lot and he's too old. But Chris Paul played at a very high caliber level last year, and I think Phoenix is a perfect fit for him to be that veteran presence, to be that veteran leader with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, just surround himself with the younger guys and kind of do what he did with OKC. And we saw it in the bubble. The Phoenix Suns went undefeated in the bubble, and they were super, super close from sneaking in that 8th playoff seed. So I think with Chris Paul, there's a total chance that they can be a playoff team. They were kind of like that, a fringe playoff team after they got hot in the last week at the bubble. But I think now with this team coming together, having different pieces, and it not just being this young team, but you actually have a veteran Hall of Famer coming into the system, that it's going to work. And we're going to see. We'll obviously see, but again, I think this is a perfect fit. And people might be scratching their head, we saw the Thunder. We saw that they were a better team than expected, and could they have gone back to the playoffs with Chris Paul? Well, they bring in 2 young studs of their own. They bring in Kelly Oubre. I think the Thunder will still be fine with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They did trade Dennis Schroeder to the Lakers, and they're getting picks. The Thunder, they have so many draft picks, and it's not until we see the name and who these picks become do we really understand how these trades really unfold and what it's going to do. And speaking about picks, speaking about first rounders becoming names, the Bucks dumped 3 first round picks on Drew Holiday, and they gave up 3 first rounders, Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. So you dump both of your point guards, your starter and your backup, really, to bring in Drew Holiday from New Orleans, and they give up 3 first rounders. They also traded for Bogdan Bogdanovic as well, and they shipped off DiVincenzo and a few other guys. Bucks are completely revamping this supporting cast. What they had this season and in the playoffs, you saw. Now, Giannis was hurt, great, but the supporting cast was not ready, and they were embarrassed by the Heat, to be honest. A team that was number 1, had all these expectations, completely flubbed. I think 3 first rounders for Drew Holiday is a crazy, crazy price, especially when you give up Bledsoe and George Hill. I mean, and I understand where it's coming from, just because adding Bogdanovic and Holiday, if these 2 moves don't get Giannis to sign back with Milwaukee, they're screwed. Absolutely, they're fucked. Because for me, seeing this starting 5 now, with Bledsoe, Middleton, Bogdanovic, Giannis, and Brook Lopez, very good starting 5. This is a superb top East 5, because now you have Wesley Matthews that can come off the bench, great defender. These guys that were starting can get pushed into the rotation and work out of a bench role. But if it's all for naught if Giannis does not come back. And I think the biggest thing that the Bucks are trying to make up for is the loss of Malcolm Brogdon. And that was on them last season. I don't think they understood how important Malcolm Brogdon was to this team until he left and he went to Indiana. This team did not improve going into last season. They let Brogdon walk, and they didn't get better in any position, in any way whatsoever. And I think it took them, a quarter way through the season that Brogdon was that number 2. Now, you could say Middleton might have been at the time, but no, Brogdon was the guy bringing up the ball, playing the point guard, shooting guard position, and putting up 35 or even giving you a 40-point game. So I think this really is all makeup. This is making sure, all right, we have a top-tier facilitator in Holiday. And I think it's a big loss for New Orleans, to be honest, although, you bring in Bledsoe and George Hill, they're getting a ton for Holiday. But you get a facilitator, you get Bogdanovich, who's a good shooter, and this team just becomes better. So, again, draft is tonight. Who knows where any team, these better teams that made the playoffs, where they go with their lower first-round picks. We'll see how that unfolds. But just really interesting what the Bucks are doing. Again, if Giannis does not come back, if he goes to a Miami, if he goes elsewhere, you completely jeopardize your possible future giving up these picks. And who knows? And the future with certain teams now, with James Harden, Russ, they traded away Chris Paul, right? And they kind of flopped for Russell Westbrook. And you thought that, okay, they're not fully tearing this thing down. They're going to dump Chris, and they want to bring in Russ, and they still want to be a competitive team. This whole thing is getting blown up. Whole thing. Harden wants out. Russ wants out. They just traded Robert Covington to the Blazers, who one of my favorite players on this team, such a good player, defender, solid three-point shooter. Harden could be off to Brooklyn to join Durant and Irving. Russ wants out. If I'm the Knicks, I know that's been in talks. I make a trade for him. And I know you're saying, the Knicks, you're gonna throw away the possible future and what you're trying to build. The Knicks need something to get fans in the stands. They need something. And Russell Westbrook is going to draw and give me something to entertain me while I'm sitting and buying a $12 hot dog. So if there's a chance that both of these guys come to New York, go to Brooklyn, go to New York. And as soon as D'Antoni decided, to part ways, you knew that this was not going to this wall was going to start crashing down. So moves. This team is going to be in full rebuild mode. PJ Tucker's not happy. Eric, Gordon, with his role, who knows what he likes. If Harden, Russ go, then Gordon will be, that number one guy. But this Rockets team is going to be in shambles by the end of the offseason. They probably won't even be looked at as a playoff team the way they're going to look come opening day. We'll see. They're apparently they are in agreement, the Nets and the Rockets, and you can only assume that's, it's a first round. There's either 2 first rounders. You think Karis LeVert's gone. You think Dinwiddie's probably gone. So, the Rockets will be getting like some sort of, solid pieces back if Harden does get traded. With Russ, what return is that from the Knicks? Who knows? But the Rockets are it's very interesting. They're finally pulling the trigger and fire sale time. As far as the draft goes tonight, we'll see where guys like LaMelo Ball go. Some of my favorites in Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman, former Michigan State Spartans. Hopefully they can get, a first round. They can become first round picks, maybe later. But thinking maybe LaMelo, is he number 1 overall? Does he drop down to 3? Does he drop all the way down to top 5? What are the Knicks going to do with the number 8? They actually just made a trade. They're trading the number 27th and 35th for the 23rd. So now they have the 8th and 23rd round pick, numbers in the first round. So with that 8th pick, I want the Knicks to get a point guard, and I know with Russ, all this, does he get traded? Does he get traded? Is he coming to New York? Is he coming to the Garden? I want the Knicks to get someone that's a good guard. Does Halliburton drop? Is Cole Anthony there for you? All these guys I really would like to see in a Knicks uniform to be starters right away. There's been too many picks that are not legitimate starters in the NBA yet. A top 10 pick like this needs to be a starter, needs to be able to step right in, take the reins, and the Knicks haven't had a good point guard. They haven't had any good point guards in a long, long time. I need a stud point guard. If you can give me that, I'll be happy. NFL is next. Week 11 coming up. Can't believe that we're that far in. Last week's min against the spread, 8-5-1. We had a pretty nice day against the spread. That's coming up. Last week, week 10 in review, and then Knicks best bets all up next on the take. Already week 11 of the NFL. Crazy to think about. Thanksgiving next week. Last week, week 10, just a few notes, and probably saw the game of the year so far with the Bills and the Cardinals. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the league right now. It's not even, I don't think it's close. He's the GOAT right now of that position. This dude makes the greatest catch I've ever seen, especially with the circumstance of basically buzzer beater, game-winning touchdown, 3-on-1. When I was doing this write-up, I was like, 3-on-1 comparable of search and destroy, 3v1 clutch. Don't know, you throw up that grenade and you kill the people trying to defuse the bomb or something. And he just did it. He went up, he mossed the guy in front of him. It was Hyde, it was Tre'Davious White, and then it was Jordan Poyer. All three of them, he mosses one tries to come across and get a hand on it. Couldn't do anything. Cardinals escaped with a win which I think they needed bad after losing to the Dolphins the week before, and now they're first place in division. The Seahawks have not played well over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Russell Wilson has not played great football, so they're 6-3 as well. And now this West division, as good as it is, it's very much up for grabs. But it was the best catch I've ever seen. I truly think that. Three defenders, the point of the game, and obviously what it meant. If he dropped it, they lose. If he catches it, they win. Degree of difficulty, it goes beyond OBJ's, the one-hander. And I think OBJ's catch is one of the best I've ever seen as well. But I think Hopkins' degree of difficulty takes the cake for sure. Talking about the Dolphins a little bit too, the Cardinals lost to them last week. Dolphins get another win. Dolphins won again last week. I keep picking against them. I really have to stop doing that. They beat the Chargers at home. They continue to play great football. And, I think that I need one more week to truly see how they're going to be. I think that their defense, their special teams has played great. They've been scoring. I don't know, how long does that last? That you don't get that every week. Tua is playing really great football since he took over the starting role. And now they have a shot, and I even said last week, they have a shot for this division. They won, Bills lost. They're a half game out. They're sitting at 6-3. And I won't go against them this week. I'm going to be smart. At Denver, I have to pick the Dolphins. There's no, and if that bites me in the ass, then so be it. But they've been playing too well to go against them. The Ravens are frauds. The Ravens are frauds. Lamar Jackson stinks. Ravens can't beat a under 500 beat up Patriots team. Not good. Not good. And now they went from, after the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks, first in the AFC, and now they're holding on to the last playoff spot in this conference. playing terrible football. Steelers are now head over heels better, and I think the Browns have an edge on you right now, the way that they're playing. And who do they got? I think they're on a bye. No, they're home against the Titans, and that's going to be another challenge, both being top teams in this conference. Who knows if they even win with that one? Third note, we'll go back to the NFC. Saints without Drew Brees. Drew Brees got broken ribs, collapsed lung, probably out at least 3 weeks. This is a huge blow for them. They're sitting at 7-2, atop the division. Yes, they have Jameis Winston. It looks like he's going to start, but I don't know. I mean, they're in a good position now that if they do go, let's say 1-2, that they'll be fine. That they can still tread water without Drew. But I think this is a bigger loss than you think. I wasn't last year when Drew got hurt. I wasn't worried as a fan of them because I really thought Teddy Bridgewater was capable of winning, playing good quarterback, and he did. Went undefeated. Reason why he's in a Panthers uniform and he got a fat contract. With Winston though, I don't know. After coming off a year last year where, he threw 30 touchdowns, but he threw 30 interceptions. I just don't know. This team is not the same as it was last year. Michael Thomas is still hobbling around. So we'll see. They are, I believe they're home against the Falcons, coming off a bye, divisional matchup. This is a very interesting game. Falcons coming off a bye. I could really see the Falcons coming in here and winning outright, to be honest. So it's something they can't take this Falcons team lightly. Air game, Matt Ryan's still going to throw around the ball to Julio and Calvin and Hayden Hurst. So we'll have to see with them. This week is very interesting. There's a lot of good teams that aren't playing their best football right now. So the teams off buys, I had this week off to talk about the Jets. They had a bye. It was probably the best. It's been like the best 10 days of my life. Not have to worry about them. I know they're not playing. So they go to LA. They go to the Chargers this week. Hoping to have a great 0-10. But minute against the spread last week, we went 8-5-1. So overall record 14-13-1. Nick's best bets went 1-2. We start off 1-0. We had that first half. The Titans over first half was great. It hit. And Phil Rivers, his over 1.5 touchdowns, couldn't do it. He had 4 chances to get the second touchdown. Couldn't get it. And Jonnu Smith just, timer and, Colts just blew the game open and starters came out with 4-5 minutes left. He was targeted a bunch. Probably 1 or 2 catches away from covering that 30. He had 16 yards. He got half of it, but he was targeted all night. He had a rushing touchdown, believe it or not. So that was a great play call by Tennessee. But we'll bounce back with the best bets this week. Had a great against the spread. So again, back over 500 if you're following any of those spread plays. These are all plays that you obviously can play on your book. Minute against the spread is next for week 11, as well as Nick's best bets. Stay with us. Week 11, minute against the spread. Overall record is 14-13-1. So we are back over the 500 mark here. Not doing too bad. Had a nice 8-5-1 week 10. And without further ado, we'll get this going. So Thursday Night Football. I like the Cardinals +3 at Seattle. I think Cardinals are playing good football. Seahawks aren't. Russell Wilson, 10 picks now this season. Chargers, Jets, take the Chargers in the points -8.5 all day. Browns -3.5 I'll take against the Eagles. Falcons +5.5 against the Saints. I think the Falcons can win this game outright. No Breeze. Winston, first start. Who knows what happens? Divisional matchup. I like the Falcons here. Bengals +1.5. I think they win outright at Washington. Panthers -1.5 at home against the Lions. I think the Lions are just a terrible team. Steelers -10. I know double digits at the Jags, but hey, they'll be 10-0 by the end of the week, and I think they'll cover the spread. Titans +6.5. I think that's a ton of points against the Ravens. Texans +2 against the Pats. I won't go against the Dolphins. I'll take them -3. Packers +2.5 against the Colts. Cowboys +7.5 against the Vikings. It's an interesting one I'm taking. Raiders +7. It's a lot of points. They were good underdogs against the Chiefs the first week they did. Bucks -3. 59.54. Get it in that minute, but I'll go a little in depth. I think that I think the Raiders against the Chiefs, the Raiders were, I remember, +10 underdogs the first time they met, and I was like, I knew that was way too many points. The this Raiders team is actually pretty good, so I'll take them plus the points at home, +7, You're getting 7 points. Packers +2.5. Colts, they're a good team. They showed me something on Thursday night, and I think they're a legitimate, playoff team, possibly. They're sitting pretty top of their division now with the Titans. But I think anytime you get the Packers points, they're playing good enough football that they could do that. Dolphins -3. I'm not going against Miami again. I've been bitten in the ass too many times now. Titans +6.5. I think this is way 20 points. Titans +6.5. I think is perfect. Versus the Ravens. Ravens are not playing good football. Titans lost against on Thursday night, but this is 2 6-3 teams. These are very good teams, and I feel like this should be closer to like 4.5. And we might see some line change come Sunday, but if you can take them now at 6.5, I think it's a perfect time to do it. Cardinals +3 Thursday night game. I think that's a great. They're at Seattle. I could see Seattle. I could see Seattle. Possibly blowing out the Cardinals. Just they haven't been playing good football, but I think the Cardinals are playing tight football. They're playing really, really good. I think +3. I think you got to take the points, and you can't. At this point, I'm not really expecting anything from the Seahawks right now. Their defense is absolutely abysmal, and Josh Allen tore through them, and it was bad a few weeks ago. So that's what I like there, and I'll go right into it. Nick's best bets. My first one, which it's a very interesting one if you have that as a line. It's kind of like a conference play for the draft tonight, and it's Big Ten Conference, the Big Ten Conference, over 1.5 players picked in the first round. This plays for +175. First really plus odds I've given for best bet, but I love this. I think Jalen Smith is going to get picked probably low teens, maybe like from like 16th to maybe 20th. But then I think that there's a great possibility that we see Cassius Winston or Xavier Tillman out of Michigan State getting picked between that 24 to 29, 30 margin. So I think that the reason why I think that it's so high as a plus odds is because if more than one get picked, both of them are going to be in the bottom half of the first round. So when it comes to, like pick 18 coming up and you have 0 out of 2 and you only have 12 picks left, that's where you might get a little nervous. But I think this is I think it's a great spot for a plus odds. So maybe if you want to throw a unit, throw a half a unit. I would even throw a unit on it, to be honest. If you go 100 for 175, I think that the value is there. And then 2 plays for Thursday Night Football, both on the Arizona Cardinals side. It's hitting its last 2. I like Chase Edmonds over 2.5 receptions, playing at -140. Kyler has gone to him, he went to him 3 times the last 2 games. And I really like Edmonds out of the backfield as a kind of check down spot for Kyler. I think 2.5 where it is now after it's hit the last 2 weeks. I think 3.5 you'd stay away from, but I think 2.5 is the perfect spot for him at -140. And after last week, I'm gonna stay on the DeAndre Hopkins train, and I'm gonna take him over 86.5 receiving yards, playing at -110. I think again he's another with this Seattle secondary. He's got another chance of a great game. He might even I could see him going for over 100 yards if he was at like 92. I feel like I'd even take that. I think he's gonna go for over 100 again this week. If the odds weren't as bad in terms of given juice, I would take his over 5.5 or 6.5 receptions at -150, but a little steep if you don't want to give too much juice on that. But he's getting so many receptions from Kyler. He had another 7 last week, so those are my 3 plays that I really, really like. So Thursday Night Football tomorrow. We'll see if the Cardinals win. We'll see if Russ has that first few game magic that he did. But again, this defense, no Jamal Adams, a lot of hurt positions. This defense stinks. So I expect the Cardinals to even score possibly 30 points. So we'll keep you updated on that for tomorrow. But Big Ten over 1.5 first rounders selected plus 175. Chase Edmonds over 2.5 receptions at -140. DeAndre Hopkins over 86.5 receiving yards. That plays -110. That will do it for this week. Episode 10. We made it. Double digits of the take. It's pretty cool. We will see you guys next week. Hope you guys have been watching the Hot Seat with Eric Gassion. Great, just funny banter, funny conversation with him. Have a great rest of your week. We will see you next week.